Gentlemen, I bring you more corn!
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, after last time...
This time shall be different!
Yeah, well, all right. Because I am hungry again.
It's not different at all! Is it, Steve?
Much better. As some of y'all may know, we just recently passed the Super Bowl, the big annual big football sports event of the year. And watching all of the beer commercials is usually my favorite part, but it got me thinking this year. It's been a while since I covered a topic that really sparked my interest a little while back. So today I want to do a follow-up on that big advertising mess that happened back in 2019 that I affectionately dubbed as the Bud Light Corn Fiasco. I am unfortunately having to talk about this again because there has been a lot of recent developments and even a conclusion. So I definitely want to dive into everything that's happened. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have created 2 videos on this topic in the past that I would highly encourage you check out because they go so much more in depth and cover a whole lot of the backstory behind this video. But in case you don't have all the time to sit there and listen to some guy ramble on about corn and beer, I will do a real quick summary for you. Back in 2019, Bud Light aired a commercial during the Super Bowl which took aim at the fact that its major competitors, mainly Coors Light and Miller Lite, used corn syrup in their product.
Miller Lite uses corn syrup.
Let us take it to them at once!
Thus making it an obviously lacking in quality comparison to Bud Light's own brand, which use rice instead, which I guess is better. Several people throughout the industry, including prominent brewers, all came out in defense of the practice since all corn syrup is the concentration of corn sugar, which is often used throughout the big and craft brewing sector in order to create additional ABV without additional flavors, colors, or taste. But people got upset because people confused corn syrup with high fructose corn syrup, which is a processed product which can cause adverse health effects. This caused Bud Light's competitors to retaliate with a series of their own commercials and advertising campaigns.
Coors Light wants to refresh the conversation. Bud Light has been trying to pick a fight lately, but 80% of drinkers would rather enjoy a cold, refreshing beer. Introducing the Coors Light, the first smart beer tap that listens for Bud Light negativity and lights up when it finds it, signaling the next round of Coors Light is on us. The more they keep talking, the more we keep refreshing.
It caused an uproar in the corn farming industry, resulting in boycotts.
Are you genuinely outraged at that ad?
Yeah, for sure. It was an attack against corn farmers, and it was a misleading ad that, it felt like it was a punch in the gut in a time of a tough farm economy.
And it destroyed a potential billion-dollar pact across the beer industry to maintain market share. And lastly, it spawned a lawsuit filed by Miller Lite against Bud Light for misleading marketing practices and financial loss.
Now at 10, a bitter beer feud bubbling over. Milwaukee's hometown brewery, Miller Coors, is now suing Budweiser over its corn syrup ads.
Miller says Bud's commercials are trying to scare off health-conscious beer drinkers.
It wants a federal court to force the St. Louis-based brewer to stop airing those ads. Now, in the lawsuit, Miller Coors says Bud singled out its use of corn syrup because many people don't realize the difference between ordinary corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup.
Which is what we will be talking about mostly today. So without further ado, let's dive into this controversy and discover the CORN-clusion. In March of 2019, Miller filed an official lawsuit against Bud Light stating Anheuser-Busch purported false and misleading advertising claims under the advertising and anti-dilution provisions of the Lanham Act. And their end goal of this was to get Bud Light to stop airing commercials that said that they had corn syrup in their beer, which, like I said earlier, people thought was high fructose corn syrup, thus hurting their sales. Additionally, they were seeking around $30 million in financial reparations from the loss of sales, the entirety costs of their court proceedings and lawyer fees, all of which stemmed from Miller Lite's interpretation of Bud Light's advertising as false advertising. An official statement from Miller Lite on this court case read, Bud Light was purposely failing to inform consumers of these material facts. No corn syrup is in the glass, or bottle, or can of Miller Lite or Coors Light that consumers drink. Corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup are different. Miller Lite and Coors Light never use high fructose corn syrup. Anheuser-Busch also uses corn syrup as a fermentation aid in several of its products across various price points, ranging from above premium brands to economy brands. And Anheuser-Busch adds high fructose corn syrup to several of its other brands. Which, if you distill exactly what they're saying that it's weird for Bud Light to be coming at them because they too use corn syrups, both regular corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup, and some of their other products like their mixtails and probably their seltzers and things of that nature. But the weirder thing, and I struggle still to this day with this argument that Miller used, saying that no corn syrup is found in their beers, despite the fact that they openly admit to using corn syrup in their beers. And I think what they're trying to get at with this argument is the fact that corn syrup is extremely fermentable. So when it's added in to adjust ABVs or body calculations, it's completely fermented out, meaning that it's not in the final product, which to a certain degree I understand and I think is true, but it's just really weird argument to be like, yeah, we put corn syrup in it, but it's not in it. So Miller took this court case to a variety of different locations, mainly throughout the Midwest at the state level, but also to the federal court. And it seemed that some of the courts did actually agree with Miller's weird statements. In March of 2018, Bud Light was kind of punished for false advertising, and they were actually banned in the state of Wisconsin for using advertising and promotional marketing that insinuated that they didn't use corn syrup and that Miller did. They additionally had a partial ruling against them because the judge agreed that they falsely or inappropriately used Miller and Coors' official trademarks stemming from their imagery and logo in the offending commercial, which seemed like it would have been a heavy blow, but apparently Bud Light didn't really care at all. Oh, and just like at the conclusion of that hearing, they released a statement saying, we're actually running the corn syrup ad that kicked this whole thing off as early as this weekend. Now, the reason Bud Light was feeling so confident after that court case was because just a couple days later, they actually received a federal approval saying that they didn't have to do that. So it would have ended up becoming a little bit of a competition between the state and federal levels that I don't think anybody really wanted to get into, but I think because of that, Bud Light definitely felt emboldened to be able to continue airing these commercials, continue selling these products with that packaging. Now, one of the judges on the panel for that federal outcome did release probably the best official court transcript excerpt of all time, reading, if Molson Coors does not like the sneering tone of Anheuser-Busch's ads, it can mock Bud Light in return. Litigation should not be a substitute for competition in the market. And by choosing a word such as ingredients with multiple potential meanings, Molson Coors brought this problem on itself. It's enough for us to hold that it is not false or misleading for a seller to say or imply of a business rival something that the rival says about itself. Which is kind of what I've been saying since the beginning of this whole thing. It's just so bonkers, and I don't know, I just love that like passive-aggressive tone that judge took. It's hilarious. But despite this federal ruling, Coors was not ready to give up yet, continuing to proceed in several smaller state and local court systems to plead their case. And they actually ended up winning several of them. I mentioned Wisconsin, but they also won in Chicago and Milwaukee. So it seemed that they were just kind of trading blows back and forth throughout the legal system. Bud Light winning some here, Miller winning some there. But things would quickly take a sharp and weird turn. Bud Light filed its own lawsuit against Miller, and it wasn't about any type of weird packaging or marketing bickering. They were blaming them or accusing them of corporate espionage. Miller Coors' current brewmaster, Josh Edgar, was formerly a brewmaster over at Bud Light, and it seemed that he was actually feeding them direct information relating to the trade practices and the secrets, to include direct photographical evidence and depictions of Bud Light's brewing process and ingredient list. All in all, that wouldn't be too bad of a thing because you can't necessarily trademark a recipe or even patent it. It's very, very, very difficult to do. But the actual problem is, and where the corporate espionage aspect comes in, it seems that this was done at the behest of Miller Lite's high-ranking officials, who was kind of goading him into doing this, kind of acting as a spy to bring this over, and possibly even potentially intentionally poaching him from his previous position in order to give them a foot up, a head start in these court proceedings, which would be conspiracy. And that sent Bud Light on the offensive. Not only were they suing for potential damages, if all their processes and everything are leaked, that's definitely going to hurt them because it can make competitors that much better, through corporate espionage. But they were also suing in order to keep Miller quiet. They would be legally sanctioned from spreading this information or even utilizing it themselves, which would have negated everything, and that could cause a potential domino effect throughout the rest of their court cases. And this back and forth bickering continued on for months, all the way up till November of 2020. But honestly, it will probably continue on for some many years as they continue to duke it out in smaller courts. But like I said, this is the conclusion. I'm not going to pull a George Lucas and release a sequel or a prequel or anything to this story. This is it. So let's get to the CORN-clusion. The Federal 7th Circuit Court officially released its ruling stating that Bud Light did not engage in false advertising, completely nulling the effect of Miller Lite's and Coors' argument, which I can't really argue with because the whole argument of, yeah, we use corn syrup in our beer, but it's not in our beer, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. So what all does this mean? It means Bud Light is not at fault for its advertising because, it was basically just speaking the truth. Yeah, they might still get their hand slapped for the trademark infringement that they used in the commercials, but that is going to be a much bigger case, I think, but I don't think it's really that important in the long run of this. There was no conclusions as of yet on that corporate espionage, and honestly, I honestly can't care anymore. The simple fact of the matter is the importance of this story was solidified before that commercial even aired. I talked earlier, just briefly mentioning that they were all planning on having a pact together. All of the biggest beer companies in America were going to work together and create a joint pact where they would, rise the tides, floating all boats, making a better beer community. But because Bud Light did this and went directly on the offensive against two of its potential partners in this campaign, it completely disintegrated it. So we can't make it any better now. It's done. It's a done deal. That potential life vest that the big boys were going to throw out for everybody to use was instantly shot down. So the damage has already been done. It doesn't matter what any of these court proceedings resulted in because the damage is done. It just can't be fixed. So I wanted to conclude this story because hopefully it's come to as solid of a conclusion as it can, but the important part to take away is none of this mattered and we wasted all of our time because the damage was done day one. I can't say it enough. The biggest casualty of it all was all the time I wasted. But seriously, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'm glad we were able to finally come to a conclusion on this bonkersness. So, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, there's a story in every bottle, and that life is beautiful. Cheers. Ugh. The corn went in my mouth.